Alright, so the original plan was to try and film this whole process, but I've had so much trouble with the cameras, batteries dying, and spending more time pawing through technical manuals than in front of the camera turning wrenches, and cameras overheating and turning themselves off, that I've decided I'll just make a series of little video updates as I get things done. So, here's the project bike today. Engine and transmission are in, swing arms in, rear wheel and tires on, brake calipers on. I need to fill and bleed the brake system for the rear. Front's good to go because it was never taken apart. And clutch cable's hooked up. Got my wiring routed more or less how I want it. So here shortly I'm going to start on the electrical work and get a battery in it and see what works and what doesn't. And after that I'll move on to getting the carburetor and intake manifold and everything on. So that's where we are at the moment. So here's the project bike again. I made some good progress yesterday. I've extended my oil pressure switch wires, and that's all wired in. My regulator and stator are all wired in and hooked up. Starter's all hooked up, but it only goes click, click, click. So I probably just need to take this solenoid apart and clean up the contacts in there. But if it turns out that I need a whole starter, I do have another used starter on the shelf over there. Hopefully it's just a solenoid though, because changing a starter on these is not a simple task. And I've already filled the primary, so I'll have to I'll have to drain the primary, and it's a brand new quart of oil, and it's about $30 a quart, so we'll be reusing that if that comes to that. But hopefully it's just a solenoid. I've got my new ignition coil mounted. All the wiring is done and all the lighting works, except I still need to wire in the ignition. So I'm going to take my ignition to work and put a Deutsch connector on it and some pins, because it's going to plug right into that. That way I don't have to cut and solder into the factory wiring, and it'll make it easier if the ignition has issues later to replace the ignition module. So I need to do that. And the right-hand turn signal switch is broken, so I've got one of those on order. I'm going to try and switch my neutral switch out of the other transmission. I don't know if I can do that or not, but I'm going to try. That's another little nitpicky thing. I can wait till later. I'm going to swap this rod with the one that's on the transmission that came with the bike, because I like that one better, and this one's a little bit bent. I need to properly secure that crash bar. I still need to put the carburetor on, so intake manifold gaskets, carburetor, throttle cables, all that all still has to be hooked up and put on. But we're making progress. We're getting there. But right now, oh, and the horn and the top engine mount still have to go on. But right now, these arrived yesterday, so I need to rearrange the entire shop so I can shove those into that corner, and that's my priority for this morning. And then I have to do some yard work. So I don't know how far I'll get today, but at least I'll get the tire machines put in place. And I said I'm not going to buy tire machines for the house. Well, they're not necessarily for my shop at the house. The price on those was too good, and they're in too good a shape to turn down, and they will in the future be used in my own commercial shop at some point when I finally make it to that point. But it'll be good to have them for now anyway, because I can help out some friends in my home shop, since I'm not allowed to do commercial work in my home shop. You know what I'm saying. But yeah, and here's my Here's my whole shop. It's not a huge space, but guys do more with less, I guess. So I'm really quite fortunate to have this, and I'm in a pretty good place right now. So yeah, lots to do today. So I'm going to shut this off and get back to it. I got all the exhaust on yesterday. I got the carburetor all put together and intake manifold and carburetor and everything on. So she's really starting to look like a bike now. The ignition's totally wired in. All the electrical work is done except the right turn signal switch is broken. So I've got one of those on order and I'll have to wire that in. And the spotlights, which I haven't put in yet because I've got LED spotlights for it, I'm going to have to actually solder in electrical connectors to plug in the LED spotlights because they don't just go into the existing bulb socket. But I haven't got to the lighting yet. I'll hopefully maybe get to that this weekend. So since the exhaust is on, I'll be putting the floorboard back on soon. Probably this weekend. I probably won't do any more on this until Saturday. Today is Thursday. But yeah, everything's all wired in. Oil filter adapters on, oil filters on, all the fluids are filled up. I got the starter fixed yesterday. It was just an issue with the solenoid. There's some pretty ugly noises coming out of the primary when I crank the starter over. So it's probably going to wind up needing a compensator. But that's not too big a deal. I might be able to just tighten the bolt or something like that. Probably not though, because it's never that easy. But yeah, this weekend I'll get the rear brake bled, get the floorboard on, and get it fired up. I could have had it running yesterday, but I made a mistake when I ordered the carburetor kit and did not realize that I should have ordered one for an earlier model because the manifold's got this hole in it for a map sensor. And I don't have a map sensor. This bike never had one. The engine probably did at some point because I ordered that manifold based on the engine, not the bike. And they're two different years. So I got to find something to plug that with, whether I stick a bolt in there with an O-ring on it and put it on with a hose clamp, or which might wind up happening, or whether I find a map sensor and put in there just to plug the hole. We'll see what happens. If we've got an old map sensor laying around at work, I'll use that. I don't really want to buy a new one just for it to not get used. So I'll figure something out to plug that hole, and then we'll get her fired up and whatnot. But aside from that, it's ready for the rear engine, the engine mount and horn and tank and everything to go back on and fire up and run. But yeah, here we are, lots of progress. And as usual, I had little issues with everything. In the big bag of hardware for the bike, there were no manifold bolts, so I had to go to the hardware store and get some of those. And then I had to go get some hose clamps for the exhaust because my exhaust mount clamp was missing down here. But she's coming right along. She'll be running in no time. Hopefully I'll be able to ride it this weekend. There's no reason I shouldn't be able to ride it this weekend. But there she is for now. I can't wait to get the tank back on and get it fired up and get all my floorboards back on. I think she's going to be a great bike. And this weekend we'll know if Claudia's going to be able to pick it up off the side stand or not. all the existing lighting is going away. It's going to all be LED. All the lenses are going to be smoked, so no more colored lenses, be all smoked lenses. And I think it's going to be a fun ride. I think it's going to be a good looking machine when it's done. I'm not going to do anything with the fender that's dented. I'm not going to do anything with the dented cowbells, at least not for a while. But even still, even showing her age, she's a good looking bike, and I like the patina. I like that it shows its age. But I also want to update the lighting and make it more visible to cars, because I don't like getting hit. But that's not my plate either, by the way. That's going away. I've got a plate for it. It's all registered and legal. So as soon as it runs, I can take it down the road. Oh, let's see. Oh, the throttle's a little sticky. And it's because, I think it's because my straps are pulling on my throttle cables. But we'll see. I'll get some cable lube in there too, and that might help it out quite a bit. I'm going to have to take that switch cube apart anyway to replace that switch. But yeah, I'll stop rambling. There it is. She's coming right along. All right, good afternoon, YouTube. There she is, all done. I mean, she's not done, but I've still got to do the lights. I've still got to fix that right-hand turn signal switch. I still got to put the new front tire on. But I think she's safe for a road test. So this will be the maiden voyage. And I thought I'd bring you guys along. As you can see, she's all together. All the wiring's done. Everything seems to work. So let's fire it up. Cold-blooded. Had her dialed in good this morning and she was running great. I think she's just cold-blooded. Just let her warm up a minute. Looks like I got to turn the idle up a little. I just needed to tweak the idle just a touch. That's better. All right, I'll be back in a minute. I'm gonna go fill up the tank with good gas and.
Oh, okay. All right.
You want to come? Need highway bars, or highway pegs rather. Rides like a Harley Davidson. I think we've been successful. Kill switch works. Look, it's even got a place to put my gloves. It's only a 5-gallon tank, so I didn't have much gas in it, which is good. Turning left here sucks. I think we're going to go right instead. Oh, my right turn signal started working. Makes decent power. I mean, it's a twin cam, so it should, but I'm not disappointed. It's got nothing on my Indian, but I'm not disappointed. Now she's warmed up, she wants idle high. I'm gonna have to check for vacuum leaks. Yeah, this is a fun bike. I like it. Runs and rides good so far.
You made it.
What's that?
You made it.
Yeah.